What's up, everyone? Welcome back. Can you believe it is March already? We're going to talk about March bass fishing, 10 baits that you should try. Some are pretty obvious, some you may not have thought about, but we'll do it right now. Thanks everyone for watching. As you know, we do these videos about tackle, and each month I do my favorite baits for the month. And these people like these videos. I love hearing these comments from you guys. Love hearing the feedback, so keep that stuff coming. I'll keep doing these style of videos once a month. And let's just go right into it. Let's talk about March bass fishing. Now, in all these videos, I kind of give a caveat. I live in Texas, so March in Texas is spawn. You know, when I lived in Washington State, March is ice fishing, or really, really cold. I used to live in Nevada, I used to live in Florida, so I've lived in all these different places. I'm trying to make it as general as possible. So obviously this isn't gonna apply to every single place in the country, but just use it next month. I mean, it's basically for the time right around when the bass start to spawn. So really kind of a pre-spawn thing. And March is an awesome month for that for a lot of the country. It's a great month to go fishing. It's my favorite month. It's my birthday month. It's the first month that I ever fished a tournament. I mean, there's so many good things about March. Spring's here. I mean, I could go on and on and on. But let's talk about the 10 baits. And I'll start with some that are kind of unique, kind of different, that you might not have thought about, that work other times of year. But let's just jump right into it with a frog. I mentioned this in several videos, but I really like a frog early in the year because, in the summer, everyone's throwing a frog. Obviously, it's just part of summer. I mean, it's fun. But if you can throw a frog when those fish are starting to move up, when they're starting to not even spawning, when they're just kind of cruising around, getting ready to spawn. I have caught so many big fish on a frog. I got pictures of me in full bibs and hoodies and all this stuff like that. So it's cold out in March. I'm thinking back to living in Washington State, here in Texas. I mean, a frog is a great way to get on a big bass early in the year before everyone else starts throwing a frog. I use a lot of different frogs. There's so many good ones out there. This one I just showed you is kind of a smaller version of the live target frog. They have a smaller one. So I really like those smaller frogs, especially when the water is still cold, when it's around 60, things like that. So a frog, don't forget that. If you can get it out before everyone else, you can have some really good days. Same with the buzzbait. Everyone thinks of this as, your summertime bait, your fall bait, but a good black buzzbait like this, you can hear that noise. It's got that bead right there, so it's just crazy loud. This is like the frog. If you can get on that bite first before everyone else is throwing it, you can catch some really big fish. And it's a great way to catch a big pre-spawn bass. Even fish that are spawning or if they're done spawning, a buzzbait is such a good way to get a big bite. Speaking of big bites, we got a Swimbaits. This isn't that big of one. This is the Dangerous from Bass Mafia. This is the smallest size. They got all different sizes, 5, 6, 7. They got shallow and deep. It's like a mag draft. I mean, that's the same principle, whether you like the coal shad from Berkeley, the mag draft, or this one. A Swimbait like this, and these aren't that big, but a Swimbait like this is good to get a big bite. Winding around docks is a really good thing, around laydowns, those places that fish are gonna be in March. Or again, if you live somewhere else, use this advice in May, but a Swimbait is again a great way to get a big bite. I also really like spinnerbaits this time of year. Everyone kind of forgot about that with the Chatterbait. And I have a couple different options here. That orange kicker blade on this one is great if you got muddy water and clear water. I mean, you can't beat a shad style, anything like that. But that orange kicker blade is great if you got a little muddy water from rains or, snow melt or whatever the case. It's great to have that kind of visibility. That orange kicker is something a lot of people use, and it's still a great way to catch fish when the water is muddy. All right, next two we'll kind of group together because we've got crankbaits, both lipless and diving crankbaits. This is the original Bill Lewis rattle trap. You got to have that red color in the spring. And this is the Norman middle end. I love this guy, this particular color. It's like a prism crawfish or something. I've caught so many fish on these two baits in the spring. They look like a crawdad. You can fish them quickly. You can move along the bank. You can cover all kinds of stuff. Basically anything but really thick wood. I mean, you could still kind of wind it around wood, but it's really good for rocky banks. Lipless is great if there's any vegetation left or any vegetation starting to pop up. You can't beat it, especially that sound. There's so many good lipless on there. I've talked about the Berkeley Jack. It's a really good one. But if you want just kind of an old tried and true, I mean, the original rattle trap is a really good one. The next two will kind of group together as well because they're both kinds of jigs. We got the swim jig. This is the Jackal Bee Crawler. It's a really good one. I like a swim jig winding it around shallow cover. I like the weed guard on here too. It's really not much of a weed guard. It's kind of like a double fiber guard thing, just a white shad color. And then a jig for pitching around. This is a Kitech jig, a tungsten jig, so it's good for fishing around cover, but it's really a good sensitive jig as well because it's tungsten. So if you're dragging it along, you know, pea gravel or transition banks or anything that's kind of bumpy on the bottom, kind of rocky, that tungsten really makes a difference for detecting those bites. And it's a great crawfish imitator. I like that color too, that purple brown. That's an old favorite for the desert lakes when I lived in Nevada, but I still use it a lot here in Texas. That purple and brown is good. I like that Kitech jig. The hook's a little small on it. That's the one downside of that, but not quite the same problem. I mean, that's a perfect hook on the swim jig here. So jigs, you can't go wrong with them any month of the year. I guess we're winding down. I talked about this in my pre-spawn video, but a brush hog style bait like this one here from Strike King, the Game Hog, it's great for pitching it around. I also looked at my camera roll from last year, and I was catching a lot this same time last year on the Z-Man Gremlin, which is very similar. It's that Elastec material, but it's a creature bait style bait. But no matter which one you like, just pitch it around. It's great for stumps, laydowns, docks, anything like that. This is just a staple for springtime. I'm gonna have these in the boat until summer. I mean, they're awesome. And then you can Carolina rig them after. All right, and the last one, this is one I probably put on the list for every month, and it's a chatterbait. I love a chatterbait. There's so many good ones out there. I've been fishing this one a lot this whole past year since it came out, the Chatterbait Evo. It's a cheaper version, still got the tied skirt, got a nice keeper on there, got the painted blades, got the head stamped right, or the weight stamped right on the head. Can't beat a chatterbait winding it around. I really like green pumpkin, imitating those bluegill. It's always fun throwing a chatterbait around. It's great springtime bait. It's good bait all times of year, honestly. It's something I always have tied on, at least one of. Sometimes I have multiple ones tied on. So these are 10 baits that I am definitely gonna be using this March, all month. Let me know down below in the comments which baits am I missing, which ones did I completely forget about. What do you think of my suggestions? Let me know, and thanks for watching.